attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema. Once again, I thank all of you for joining this morning Bhakti Sangha conference call. But let us move to our next session. And before we do that, I would like to know who all have joined this morning. Please unmute yourself, devotees, and introduce yourself.
Hare Krishna, Aditi Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Vinita Gandharvika Devidasi from College Station, Texas.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Devi Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you, Mataji, for all your services. Thank you for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Aditi Mataji. This is Kamala Kedasi from Bangalore. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada and to Guru Maharaj and all the devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Kamudika Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you, Mataji, for joining every morning. Thank you for your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji, for giving nicely greeting. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Devotees, please unmute yourself and introduce yourselves.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to all the assembled devotees. This is Sushmita from Canada.
Hare Krishna, Shushmita Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you for joining every morning, Mataji. Thank you for your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Gauranga and all the assembled devotees. This is Yashamati Priya Devidasi Mataji from Chicago.
Hare Krishna, Yashumita Priya Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Maharaj ki jai. Thank you, Mataji, for joining and thank you for your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Aditi Mataji, all Guru Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharajis. My humble obeisances to you and all the devotees. This is Krishna Kumari Devidasi from Rani.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Kumari Devi Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining every morning and thank you for your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances unto you and all the devotees here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. This is Ekaradhika Leela Devidasi from Iowa, United States.
Hare Krishna, Ekaradhi Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you, Mataji, for joining every morning and thank you for your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Aditi Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the assembled devotees. This is Indulekha Karna Devidasi from Lincoln. Thank you so much, Mataji, for volunteering to do this service. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Indu Lekha Karuna Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you, Mataji, for your services and thank you for your association. Hare Krishna. Anybody else would like to introduce themselves? Let me see if Maharaj has joined yet.
Hare Krishna, Aditi Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. It's Sukakar Krishnadas from Chennai. Thanks for allowing me to join your Bhakti Sangha. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Sukakaram Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you very much for your association. Thank you for your great services, Prabhuji. And thank you for joining. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Anybody else would like to introduce themselves? Please go ahead. Or maybe we can continue chanting. Or maybe we can move forward with the introduction. Yeah, I would request Tiffany Mataji, Hare Krishna Mataji, and I would request Mataji to give a brief introduction for His Holiness Chandramauli Maharaj today. Go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories, all glories, all glories to our dear Srila Prabhupada. This morning, we're so very fortunate to have with us His Holiness Chandramauli Swami Maharaj. Maharaj is a disciple of ISKCON founder Acharya, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And Maharaj is also an initiating spiritual master within the ISKCON movement. Maharaj was born in New Jersey in 1947, and he came in contact with the International Society for Krishna Consciousness in Denver, Colorado at the age of 24. In 1973, he began practicing Krishna consciousness in New York City, and shortly thereafter began serving at the New Vrindavan Farm community in West Virginia. That same year, he received initiation from His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In 1986, His Holiness Chandramauli Swami Maharaj accepted the sannyas order and began preaching in Cincinnati and Columbus, Ohio. In 1995, he began serving as a resident sannyasi in Chicago, where he was based until 2013, when he relocated to Karlovac, Croatia. At present, Maharaj offers spiritual guidance around Europe, the USA, and India. Maharaj has also written a book called Krishna's Way, Natural Living, about the importance of Varnashrama and spiritual ecology. So we're so fortunate to have his association this morning. It's always such a pleasure to take his association. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, for that wonderful introduction for His Holiness. I don't see Maharaj has joined.
Yeah.
He is not yet joined. Maybe we can continue with the chanting, or devotees, if anybody would like.
Maharaj has joined, Mataji. He's joining.
Okay, all right, thank you. Oh, there Maharaj has joined. Welcome to Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call, and we are very fortunate to have His Holiness Chandramauli Maharaj today, this morning in our midst, and he will enlighten us on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 3, verse 19. Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances, Maharaj Ji, and you can take over the call from here. Maharaj, you're muted.
Yeah, he's coming, Mataji. Now he will unmute.
Okay. Oh, there he is. Yeah. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Maharaj Ji. Please accept my humble obeisances, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. And today, Maharaj Ji will enlighten us on the class of Bhagavatam class, Canto 7, Chapter 3, and verse 19. You can take over the call, Maharaj. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. We can't see you. We can see. Yeah, now
Yes,
we are able to see.
Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Bol, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. For some reason, you're not audible.
I can hear you. I'm waiting for the verse to come up.
Okay, yes, now we can hear you.
Yes.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Natat Puvarsayas Chakror. Na Kadishyanti Champare. Nirdambur Dorayat Pranan. Kova Divyam Samasatam. Translation. Even saintly persons like Brigu, born previously, could not perform such severe austerities, nor will anyone in the future be able to do so. Who within these three worlds can sustain his life without even drinking water for 100 celestial years? Purport. It appears that even if a yogi does not drink a drop of water, he can live for many, many years by the yoga process, though his outer body be eaten by ants and moths. Umagyantimirandasya Ganajana Salakayana Chaksun Militanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mao Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavari Pastyatya Satarine Panchakalpa Tarubhasya Kripa Sindhube Bacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. So we're hearing about the austerities of Smarani Kasipu, whose austerities are geared to gaining personal power. What is that personal power? He's trying to overshadow the natural law of material energy, that the material body will become immortal. Of course, that is not possible. The soul is the principle of immortality, because the soul, as is described in the Bhagavad Gita, does not take birth, nor does it die, nor does it undergo transformations like the material body does. Rani Kasipu is a demon, a Rakshasa, a very vicious person who is only thinking about his own personal aggrandizement. But he is performing such, as it says here, severe austerities that even Bhrigu Muni, one of the sons of Lord Brahma, who is very powerful, and he's the author of the Bhrigu Samhita and other treatises, and he could travel from planet to planet. But even here, he could not perform the austerities of Ranikashipu. Ranikashipu knew the yoga system, that he could maintain his life here simply through the process of yoga or pranayama, where the life air is not affected by the transformation and the deterioration of the physical body. And so, although he didn't understand that the material body can never be immortal, still he was trying to perform that because he wanted power. He wanted to be free from death. He wanted to live forever. Devotees can achieve freedom from death very easily through the process of Bhakti Yoga system, by which one hears and chants the glories of the Lord and engages in the process of pure devotional service under the strict guidance of Krishna's representative, the bona fide spiritual master. That process of immortality is the authorized process, because the body is made out of elements that will eventually deteriorate. And so these elements, although they're eternal in essence, but not in their natural state. In other words, just like, for instance, you can take water, put it on a fire and boil it, and then it'll disappear and turn into a gaseous state. So the atomic structure of the water changes from liquid to gas. And so the elements still remain, but they're now transformed. So matter can never be created or destroyed, but it can be transformed. And the basic principle of the body is that it deteriorates due to the element of the time factor. So it cannot sustain its original situation. In other words, it has to become less and less over a period of time. And those who perform austerities based on extending the body or giving strength to the body like that, that's possible, but what is the goal? The goal ultimately is material supremacy, greater forms of sense gratification available, and elevation to a higher status within the material tabernacle. So ultimately, all of that austerity is useless because ultimately the body has to die. So austerity is very much a part of life. Just like in our Krishna consciousness movement, Krishna speaks in the Bhagavad Gita, there's austerities in the mode of goodness, austerities in the mode of passion, austerities in the mode of ignorance, austerities according to the three categories of material energy. And each one has a particular motivation for performing those austerities. But the devotees perform austerities neither in any of the three modes. They perform austerities in order to free themselves from the bodily conception of life or the interference with the body in the process of devotional service. So in our society, the austerities is to chant the holy names of the Lord, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. That is the recommended austerity in this age, and because people cannot perform severe austerities, as was done like Vishwamitra Muni when he wanted to become powerful like a Brahmana, he sat down in the summertime in the middle of the hot sun with fires all around him and meditated. And then again, in this winter time, up to his neck in ice cold water and meditating. What was his goal? His goal was to achieve Brahma Tejas. He understood that Brahminical power was greater and had more facility attached to it than Kshatriya Tejas or Kshatriya power. So he wanted to become a Brahmana. And the result of his particular austerities is that when Indra saw that this yogi was performing this great austerity, he assumed that he was trying to take his position in the heavenly planets. Because that's another principle of austerity. People perform austerities to get power, position, wealth, facilities in the material. So the demigods become somewhat concerned when someone performs severe austerities. They think that they're going to take their position in the heavenly planets. And that's, of course, that is also possible. And so Indra sent, his society girl, Menaka, to attract his mind. And his mind was attracted and it broke his austerities. And he wound up marrying Menaka, and then of course the famous Sakuntala was born out of that union. But she went back to the heavenly planets. After some time, he gave up the relationship with her, and he was somewhat regretful that he was seduced. And so he performed austerities again with the desire that any society girl who would come, or anything would come, he would destroy them. And so his austerity was so powerful that, again, of course, Indra's son sent another society girl named Ramba. And when she came, she tried to attract his mind, but he had performed the austerities of raising the fire in his body, and he was able to emit that fire out of his eyes, and he burnt Ramba into ashes. And as soon as he did that, he fell down from his austerities, because attachment and aversion are two parts of the same principle. To get attached to something, to become averse to something, is the same. Both are on the level of duality, and both are within the material context. And so he was unsuccessful again, like that. So yogis, they perform austerities for some, but devotees also perform austerities, just like it says in the scriptures. The austerities of the devotees are the wealth of their devotion. So in our process of Krishna consciousness, the austerity is to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra as given by the spiritual master every day, and to follow these simple 4 rules and regulations: no illicit sex, no intoxication, no meat eating, and no gambling. These restrictions are a form of austerity because people are inclined to these activities. But these activities take one away from the process of devotional service and bring one to the bodily conception of life. These austerities, or these principles that austerities are geared towards, are the pillars of sinful activity in the material world. So one who can be free from these 4 forms of sinful activity can actually elevate themselves through the process of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And devotees perform other austerities, just like they fast on Ekadasi, or they also take on vows of various types of services and personal restrictions like that. So austerity becomes a principle that gets one off the bodily conception of life. There's certain denial of the senses, the mind, which when geared, that denial is geared towards, or that energy that was used for these activities is geared towards Krishna consciousness, then one makes progress in devotional service. So wealth is defined in different categories. The lowest form of wealth is finance, money, the exchange that we use in the material world to get commodities and get positions and power. That's called, or we call it money. That's the lowest form of wealth, according to scriptural injunctions. Higher than that is knowledge. Knowledge is greater than material wealth because it allows one to move away from what is detrimental for one's material and spiritual welfare and move them towards those activities which are beneficial. And ultimately, it gives one knowledge of the process of devotional service and Krishna. Higher than wealth is austerity, because austerity gets one off the bodily concept of life. And therefore, most of the process of bhakti contains elements of austerities, which inspire the devotee towards Krishna consciousness. Just like we give up things that we like to do in order to serve Krishna in a desire to please Krishna. Putting our own desires, emotions, and feelings in the background and keeping service to Krishna in the foreground is one of the best forms of austerity. And ultimately, austerity leads to bhakti, because without austerity, one cannot actually stay steady in the process of devotional service. Therefore, it's recommended throughout scriptures and given by the acharyas, the principle of austerity. You see, now going back to the material realm, is that in the material realm here, for people can perform, Dhruva Maharaj performed tremendous austerity. He was standing on one leg and just performing the yoga system, meditating on the different bodily features of the transcendental form of the Lord in his mind, and not eating and hardly even breathing. He was breathing very intermittently every once in a while. He became so powerful that the universal breath was choked out by the power of his austerity. He became the center of the universe. But what was his goal? His goal was something material. He wanted to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why? Not for worship of the Lord, but he wanted some material benediction from the Lord. He was insulted by his stepmother, and he wanted revenge by getting a kingdom. His father was the king of the world. He wanted a kingdom greater than his father. He wanted a kingdom greater than his grandfather, Swayambhu Ramanu. And he wanted a kingdom greater than Lord Brahma, his great-grandfather, who is the leader of the entire race of jivas. He is the supreme monarch within the material world, Lord Brahma. So he wanted a king, and there was no such kingdom available. But Krishna eventually satisfied his desire, because when his austerities became mature, and the demigods were complaining to Lord Vishnu that, hey, this devotee, he's trying to get your darshan, and his austerities are destroying the universe. It's breaking our universal management. So you better go and do something to pacify him. So the Lord appeared to him, not because he had performed austerities to get the Lord's darshan, but because he was creating a disturbance. And when he saw the Lord, he immediately, his mind became changed, and he gave up all of his desire for material gain, and he simply wanted to worship the Supreme Lord. Immediately, his devotion started to sprout, and the Lord was pleased with that, and eventually gave him a kingdom, which is now known as the Post, or also known as Dhruvaloka. So that's an example of one who is performing great austerities for something material. Here we have the same with Hiranyakashipu. He wants, he wants to be immortal. And you'll see as the verses go on, what type of immortality he apparently, we don't say he achieved, apparently got. And that is the basis of the whole pastime, where the Supreme Lord Sri Nrsingadev appears and destroys all of his attempts for immortality. So, one can perform miracles through the process of austerity, but what is the use? If austerity makes one hard-hearted, if austerity just gains one something material, then it is actually diverting one's attention to away from the real goal of life, which is Prema Pumartha Maham, developing one's love for Krishna. So in devotional service, as one begins devotional service, there are recommended austerities. But as one makes progress in devotional service, the austerity falls away. And what happens is that one develops a strong desire to please the Lord and serve the Lord and develop love for the Lord. And then that becomes the focus. And no longer one performs all of the other austerities, although they may do it just to teach others, but they are on the spiritual platform or on the purified platform. And their whole goal is simply to serve the Lord in a way to please the Lord and develop love for the Lord. And that is the ultimate goal. So austerities are recommended in the scriptures. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions a whole list of austerities. And austerities can be something that one takes on to build one's character. Austerities can be taken on as one to want to avoid certain activities in the material sense, which will bring one down into the material energy. Austerities are performed in different ways, but ultimately the essence of all austerities is, as it's mentioned, Krishna Varna Tvasa Krishna Sangopanga Saparsada Yagyai sacrifice, Sankirtanai Prayaya Jantihi Sumeda Sahat. The austerity in this age is to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, both in the process of japa and in the process of kirtan, not just one, but both. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sets the standard by which the austerity of kirtan becomes a prominent feature along with one's individual prayers, which we know as japa. And japa helps one to become inspired by kirtan, and kirtan helps to purify one's japa. And both of them are needed, and that is the recommended austerity in this age. And of course, the austerity is given by the guru in the process of aspiring for a spiritual master, such as the 4 regulative principles which we mentioned earlier. So when one becomes accustomed to devotional service, then austerity automatically, it becomes a natural thing. It's no longer something that one has to struggle in order to perform. One automatically wants to perform these austerity because it becomes a part of their process of executing devotional service, and there is enjoyment. As it says, austerity is the wealth of the Brahmin class. In other words, those who are actually Brahminically inclined find great happiness in performing austerities, which leads them closer and closer to self-realization. So this is the process here. It's interesting, the purport is, Prabhupada only gives one sentence, that even the yogis can not drink a drop of water for many, many years and still live. It's interesting, many years ago I came across one magazine while I was in India, and it was about a man who hadn't eaten or drank a drop of water in 62 years. The article didn't give much about what he did, but he was just refraining from eating. He never ate anything, and he never drank any water. Sometimes, I guess, of course, we're not guessing, but we could understand that he was performing the yoga system. I didn't mention that in the article, but it just wanted to illustrate that this person had performed some type of miracle. So yeah, yogis can do that. They can do that. They can also extend their lives for many, many years through the process of austerity. But an extended life is not really the goal of an intelligent person. Intelligent person wants to use every moment of life that is available for self-realization. Trees live for thousands of years, and what is the benefit? And as far as the soul in the tree. So yeah, so longevity of life is not the goal of austerity, although it may be a byproduct of austerity. What is the real austerity is to become Krishna conscious, or to take up Krishna consciousness and chant the holy names of the Lord, and very carefully avoid those things that take one's consciousness away from devotional service. So there are many austerities that traveling to holy places is a type of austerity. And that should be also performed. That's one of the angas or limbs of bhakti. Visiting the holy places, hearing from great personalities, and performing devotional service in these holy places. Srila Prabhupada has written in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that all the devotees in the ISKCON society should visit all of the holy places that were visited by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, that's a pretty tall order, but he writes it, and because Lord Chaitanya traveled throughout all of South India and went to many, many holy places. And also he went to what is now known as Bangladesh. He also traveled there and performed many pastimes there. But Prabhupada said that the best austerity is to continually chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra according to the directions given by the spiritual master, But he was very emphatic that devotees go to the holy places at least once a year for association with the great souls and to perform the activities of glorification of the Lord in these holy places. And specifically, he said that during the Gaur Purnima festival in Sridham Mayapur, every devotee in our society should come for at least 8 days. This is the exact statement. 8 days to celebrate Lord Chaitanya's appearance in the world. So that's coming up very soon, within the end of March 24th, I believe, is the day of Lord Chaitanya's appearance, and the devotees will converge all around the world into this holy place, and there are many spiritual activities that will be happening, and it's a wonderful opportunity to solidify in one's consciousness in devotional service and get a lot of good association with great souls who come to the holy places, and by serving great souls in holy places, there's no greater service that one can perform. So if we're not enthusiastic to make some sacrifice, we will never become Krishna conscious. There has to be some personal sacrifice, but these sacrifices are very simple, as Srila Prabhupada said. Chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, dance and kirtan, and take only food offered to the Lord Krishna Prasadam. Those 3 activities are also a form of austerity. People like to eat all kinds of food, and if you go around the world, there are millions and millions of restaurants. Everyone's opening a new restaurant. Everyone's figuring out some kind of exotic foods that they can offer to the public, of course, for some pecuniary benefit. And so restaurants are everywhere. The tongue is the most voracious and difficult to control. But we can control the tongue, which is a great austerity, by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, speaking about devotional service and the glories of the Lord, and avoiding food that is cooked by non-devotees, or not food that is not offered to the Lord in sacrifice. And another austerity of the tongue is to refrain from talking nonsense. People like to talk. Just when 2 people are together in a room, they can't remain quiet, just they feel like they have to say something. So this idea of the urge to speak is a very strong urge, but it brings one's consciousness down towards the material level when one wants to speak about anything and everything. So therefore, it's recommended that the 2 austerities of the tongue, which is the foremost austerities, is to chant the holy names of the Lord, glorify the Lord, and take only food offered to the Lord in devotion prasadam. This is called sacrifice. It's called yagya bhuk, that sacrifice that elevates one's consciousness towards devotion. So the process of devotional service is susukam kartavaviyam. It's joyful. And when we perform austerities, we actually enter into the realm of joyfulness, because these austerities get us off the bodily concept of life, which is the cause of all suffering. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you, Maharajji, for the wonderful class, Maharaj. And this is such an important, subject, which is austerity. And you said it's such an important part of our life. And it is indeed an important part of a devotee's life at this age. Austerity is to chant Harinam, Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And austerity is also the 4 regulative principles, you said, are forms of austerity, and to elevate themselves to process to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And these austerities becomes a principle. That being said, Maharaj, you said even austerity is to offer first to the Lord, and then the devotees need to consume, that prasad, and it should be cooked by the devotees, and then only you can, consume that prasad, right? So those are the very important, austerities. But we do come across so many challenges, like even in the temple, sometimes non-devotees are also cooking, and we are Brahminical devotees, right? Initiated devotees, and then we hesitate. And they just don't understand, and they'll say, "Why aren't you having the prasadam?" Right? But it's very difficult. It's very difficult to make them understand because they have not followed those regulative principles. So it becomes very challenging. How do you deal with these challenges, Maharaj? I just had this question.
That's the fault of the management. No one should be cooking
Yeah.
prasadam who's staying in the temple. That's why
Yes.
we have first and second initiation. Only those who are second initiated can cook for the deities or even cook for the devotees. We made a little concession based on the fact that sometimes a Brahmin cook is not available. So a first initiated person can cook. But that's concessionary. Srila Prabhupada set up the standard that only Brahmins can cook. So if that's not being done, then that's the fault of the management, and
Absolutely.
and that food that is being cooked by these non-devotees or uninitiated devotees is not really prasadam, because the Lord
No,
doesn't accept. The Lord won't accept that. We
correct.
can make our own rules, but it's not going to. We don't. The Lord follows the standard by which is given by the spiritual teachers, and not by us who decide to make our own way of doing things. So you can't say that it's actually prasadam. It's just food. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's a tamasic food.
Yeah. So we should avoid taking that, and that should be addressed by the leadership, that they should organize cooks that are authorized to cook for the deities and for devotees, and of course, and for the guests who will come also. They get the remnants of the prasadam. That's one of our most important factors of temple worship, if not the most important.
Yes, you're right. It's the fault of the management. I agree. Yeah, we are trying. We are trying our level best to bring the reforms. Yeah, but it's most of the time very challenging, because if the leadership is not very powerful, I mean, they're not following these rules and regulation, which our spiritual master Srila Prabhupada has struggled all his life, and if we are not following those principles, it becomes very challenging for the devotees like us. But nonetheless, end of the day, we are chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, so that we control our tongue as well. To control the tongue is so important, you said, and those are the essence of austerities. And I think when you start chanting, and that ruchi comes in you, you're waiting to chant more and more, and I think that's the ruchi which will control our tongue, not to have austerity stuff. Thank you, Maharaj, so much. I won't take much of your time. I would request other devotees if they have questions. Maharaj, you have time for questions?
I want to say one thing based on what you just said. And
Yes,
Prabhupada
yes,
boiled it down. He said, chant Hare Krishna and take Krishna prasadam.
yes,
If we're not taking Krishna prasadam, or food that is offered to the deities, we can't really chant the holy names of the Lord. The mind becomes so disturbed. The
absolutely.
prasadam purifies the body and the mind, and it allows one to chant the holy name more nicely and develop the taste.
Yes.
So when we say just chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, we include prasadam in that. That has to be there. That's
Thank you.
not optional.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for that wonderful answers. Yeah, let me see if devotees are here. Sukhakara Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Please go ahead with your question. You unmute yourself, Prabhuji. No, we can't hear you. Unmute yourself. We can't hear you, Prabhuji.
You
Go
have
on
to
to
unmute
Yes,
Mataji.
unmute.
go on to tomorrow, then we can come back.
Or maybe Shiv Kumar Prabhuji, you can go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you Mataji. Dandavat Pranams. Hare
That's
Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranams Maharaj. Maharaj, in 17th chapter we see that the austerities listed for the mind, Maharaj, satisfaction is listed as the first austerity. I just wanted to understand, Maharaj. Generally, I'm speaking of myself. I still find pleasure in sense engagements, material sense engagements, and slowly moving to being satisfied with the senses being engaged in the devotional service or devotional activities. So, when the satisfaction is listed as one of the austerities, Maharaj, what does that exactly mean, Maharaj? Is that practicing satisfaction itself is an austerity?
Yeah, satisfied with whatever comes by way of Krishna's arrangement. One should be satisfied with wealth that comes by a natural arrangement. One should be satisfied with one's wife. One should be satisfied with one's whatever food comes in the form of prashadam. In other words, a sense of satisfaction means being dependent on the mercy of the Lord. And therefore, whatever the Lord allows to happen, whatever comes our way, we're satisfied. Dissatisfaction comes because of material desires. That's all. Trying to fulfill material desires. Yeah. So one should be satisfied with the basic things of life, and one should be satisfied with the process of devotional service. One should not look outside of devotional service to find satisfaction.
Okay. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare.
Thank you for that. Yes, Sukhakar Prabhuji.
Yeah, actually, my line went off, that's why I could not talk.
Go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Dandavat Pranam. Candramauli Maharaj, thank you again. You are with us just before the Ekadashi, after the Ekadashi. So please bless us. Again, we beg you for blessing us to get the pure devotional service. Maharaj, the question which now Mataji was asking, it was a very serious issue. She also spoke to me, Aditi Mataji. She's following everything properly. She's a disciple of Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. But the person who is running the show, he is the initiated disciple, but putting all the people who are not even initiated to do all the functions and all, and he's like a dictator. So she is worried how to get it sorted out. And Gopal Krishna Maharaj is in somewhere else, and how to make this happen. Since you are Prabhupada disciple, you can throw some light, how she can, because she's not able to see with the eyes what is happening now.
Well, there's a process of management that allows for change, and that is that one tries to solve the problem on the level that the problem is at. If one cannot solve it on that level, one goes to the next level where there is another authority over those who are in the position, and then you can go all the way up to the GBC. So there's a process of retribution or a process of filtering down. So if the temple president is breaking the principles, then ultimately the local GBC should be notified and there should be some correction. If the local GBC is not available for some reason, then something can be sent to the executive committee of the GBC,
Oh.
And then, so there's a thing for checks and balances. You know. But one should not allow deviations to go on in the name of just because it's convenient.
Yeah.
One should, yeah. So yeah, there's a process like that.
So it's going on for many years, and she's seeing the atrocities happening, and she's feeling very. There are many senior people are leaving the place because all things going
Yeah,
topsy-turvy.
sometimes these temple leaders, they think, well, this person's a very good cook, and
Yeah.
they're very
Yeah.
they're very responsible. They show up all the time, but they are not initiated. But there is a scriptural injunction that says that Krishna does not accept any food offered by persons who are non-devotees. And in this case, it means initiated. So yeah, we have already brought down Prabhupada's standard from second initiation to first initiation. So
Yeah.
many temples allow for first initiation to cook. Even that is a lesser principle that what Prabhupada gave us. But ultimately, to have someone who is not initiated at all is you can't call that prasadam. It's just not prasadam. Krishna is not going to accept that. That's a fact. That there's a statement in that regard.
Mataji, you have to write to the GBC's executive committee.
Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj, for throwing the light.
And go to the raised hands by Jyoti. Radha Jyoti Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Mataji. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Maharaj Ji. Maharaj Ji, my question to you is, we see that the new joining or the devotees who are not initiated, they are very much interested in all the services, but when it comes to chanting, they are reluctant. So the austerities in other devotional services, it seems easy for them, but when it comes to austerity in chanting, it's difficult. It's difficult, I agree, but why it is so much of difference? Why they are not interested to put extra endeavors and chant? Because they are devotees, they are not initiated yet, but they are not taking extra endeavors. So could you please teach on this?
Harinam, Harinam, Harinam eva kevalam kalo nasteva 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 gatir anyata. There's no other way, there's no other way, there's no other way than chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. It is the Yuga Dharma, it's the means for self-realization, and it is applied in all situations. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it lists the 9 angas, or activities of devotional service. And it says that each one of the angas are competent to give self-realization if one perfects that anga. But Srila Prabhupada makes the point that each one of them must be accompanied by the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So I give you an example of what happened in one of my experiences, where I was in one particular temple in Europe, and the temple president called me in and said, Maharaj, I have this wonderful pujari. She comes every day on time. She dresses the deities very nicely. She's very creative, but she will not chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So what should I do? I said, well, allow her to continue to do her service, but keep encouraging her in different ways that she should chant. And if she doesn't chant after a period of time, Krishna will kick her out. She won't be able to maintain that service. And so I left it at that. And then I gave some scriptural references to back up that statement that chanting must accompany all of the other activities in devotional service. And then after 3 months, I had returned to that same temple, and I inquired about that lady. And he said, you're right, Maharaj. After some time, I didn't say anything to her, he said, but she just left on her own. Yeah, because she's not following the instructions of the Param Guru or the what is it called? The Acharya, what is it called? Prabhupada is called the something Acharya, foundational Acharya. Whatever Prabhupada has given us as a standard for the execution of devotional service must be executed. It can be discussed how we execute it, but when it comes to chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, there's no discussion based on that. One has to chant, and one has to come to the point of initiation by chanting 16 rounds every day and following the 4 regular principles. So we can take their volunteer service and let them do some service, but after some time they'll go away because they're not chanting. The service will become a burden, becomes like work. So we let them continue to do service, but encourage them that they should perform the execution of the instruction of the spiritual master, which is the most important. Srila Prabhupada made that point. He said, my most important instruction to my disciples that they must chant every day 16 rounds on beans without fail. He said most important instruction. He didn't say important. So yeah, we want to encourage everyone, and we bring people in sometimes through the process of doing activity, performing some kind of practical service. But it's just to get them into the association of devotees, and then from there they have to take up the process. Otherwise, they won't be able to stay in that association.
Yes, Maharaj ji, you mentioned there are number of ways to encourage. So could you please mention on what are the different ways to encourage them?
To encourage them?
Yes, you mentioned there are various ways to encourage them. I want to know about these ways.
If you chant, you'll be happy. We always say that, chant and be happy. If you chant, you'll please the Supreme Lord. If you chant, you'll follow the instructions of the spiritual master who has given you the process of devotional service. If you chant, you'll free yourself from all suffering that comes by way of the material energy. All of these things are chanting. We don't speak about the higher glories of chanting, such as entering into one's spiritual identity in the spiritual world. That we don't speak to people in general. That's something that comes after a certain level of elevation in spiritual practice. So, different ways to encourage them. If we can also say that if you're in a position of leadership and if you don't chant, then I'll have to ask you to leave the services, and we'll find someone else to take your service. So who is willing to chant? Because without chanting, then they miss the whole point. It's like the most important activity is japa and kirtan. It's the Yuga Dharma. It's the means for self-realization in this age. Every age of the 4 ages of human society, every age has a particular means for self-realization. In this age, it's chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam, kalam nasti eva, nasti eva, nasti eva. Gatir anyata. There's no other way, no other way, no other way. This verse was spoken by the Supreme Lord himself, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, giving the formula, and he's also demonstrating by his personal example the importance of chanting Hare Krishna. And the scriptures support all of the activities of chanting by talking about the glories of the holy name and the benefit that one achieves through the process of chanting. And for those who are on the highest platforms, sometimes they don't do anything but chant. That's all they do. Of course, you can't come to that stage, surreptitiously or automatically or whimsically. That comes by advancement. But on the higher stages, great souls, they chant all day, and pretty much that's their absorption. I know devotees who chant 64 rounds a day. Some chant 32 rounds a day. There's others who chant even more. There's others who spend their whole life centered around chanting and distributing the glories of the holy name to others. Chanting is the essence. Chanting is the basis. Chanting is the goal. Chanting is the means.
Oh, thank you so much for the specific answer, Maharajji. You answered me very specifically. So I'm grateful for that. It will be easy for me to answer whenever I could get an opportunity to mention about the glories of the holy name in the way in which they could understand or they could easily accept it. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Radha Jyoti Mataji, for that wonderful question. Thank you, Maharajji, for that answer. Yes, and the next is Prahlad Prabhuji, Prahlad and Prabhuji. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mataji, and then pranam to all and Maharaj. My question is regarding the Gruhasthas, like us, where I'm initiated, but my wife is not, and she's chanting some rounds. You cannot hear?
I cannot understand it. It's becoming unclear.
Oh, can you hear me now properly?
If you're speaking a little slower and clearer.
Okay, sure. My question is, for a devotee like me who is at home, the wife is not initiated, but she chants and prepares sattvic food without onion, garlic, and other things, and we are offering it with tulsi dala. Will this be accepted by Lord Krishna or not? Because we are doing it sincerely. So,
There's a thing called sankalpa that's mentioned, that in this home form of worship, there should be a sankalpa. And that sankalpa is there. I checked on this particular point. This incident came up. The sankalpa is that lady should chant minimum 4 rounds. That's a sankalpa. And then she can offer food to the deities, and she can do a little worship at home. She can't do that at the temple, but at home she can. Because home worship is less stricter. But
exactly.
No chanting at all, it's not going to be acceptable. So I did some inquiring from some people who understand deeply the process of devotional service. And this person gave me this answer that there has to be a sankalpa, some vow of chanting. And the sankalpa is a minimum of 4 rounds for those who are like housewives, who are taking care of children, who have to manage the house, and have a lot of responsibilities. Otherwise, you're qualified to worship the deity even at home if they don't do any chanting at all.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, because my wife does chant 4 rounds at least. And
at least minimum 4 rounds. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. That's so encouraging, Maharaj. Thank you very much for your answer. Thank you.
Thank you for that wonderful question. And thank you, Maharajji, for that answer. I don't know whether maybe I'll go to the next devotee and then Sukakara Prabhuji. We'll come back to you. It's Radha Vinodini Mataji. Yes, Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to you. May I ask my question about desires, which I sent an email to you, or shall I wait later?
No, go ahead. It fits in.
Okay, so there were 2 parts of the question connected to desires. One was that if you could describe a little bit what is the difference between urges and desires. And the other was that if desires are, if the mind or the soul is the source of desires, or both, or how it works.
Well, urges are just strong forms of desires that come out. That's all. An urge is another. It's what it is. It's a desire that has a very strong emphasis on it. That's the word means something that springs up within one's consciousness, one's life, that pushes one in a direction very strongly to fulfill that. That's an urge, which is a desire, an urge for sex life, an urge for eating, an urge for any of the activities of the senses can be categorized as urges when they appear without any apparent cause, and they are very strong. That's an urge. That's an etymological definition of the word. And the mind is simply a reflection of the desires of the living entity. So the desires of the living entity, the soul cannot perform anything material. The soul is aloof from everything material. But the soul mistakenly thinks it is the body, and therefore it acts through the mind and the senses. So the desire is coming through the mind and through the senses, based on the soul's desire to enjoy in this material world. So everything is performed by the body, the mind, the senses, the intelligence. Like that. The soul doesn't touch it. And just like the perfect example is a dream. In the dream, one is experiencing various types of activities in the dream, but nothing really is happening on the physical level. Generally, sometimes something does happen on the physical level, even in dreams. But it's actually a subtle form of existence wherein activities are happening, but in one sense, it's not touching the person, but it's all happening on the mental platform. So the same thing in material life is the same. We think we're this body, and because we think we're this body, we think that the activities of the bodily needs and the bodily responsibilities are actually the fulfillment of the happiness that we're looking for in life. And therefore, the mind is a creation of the desires that we have for material enjoyment. The material mind is the covering over the spiritual mind. The soul also has a mind, but that mind is pure. And it's the shadow of that pure mind is the material mind. Just like the shadow of a person, it looks like the same person, but it is only a shadow and has no substance. The material mind has no substance, but it's the creation due to the association with matter that the soul has been sojourning life after life, performing activities based on material existence. So we create this false sense of existence, and it starts within the mind. The mind, and then it expands itself out in the senses, the intelligence, like that. The mind is in the mode of goodness, the intelligence is in the mode of passion, the false ego is in the mode of ignorance. From the false ego, the mind comes, and using the intelligence, it tries to fulfill its desire for material enjoyment, material supremacy. So all these are shadows, reflections of the reality. The reality is that the soul is part and parcel of Krishna, and it can never perform any material activities. But being diluted by the material energy, it falls into the category of temporality, trying to enjoy this material world. But the soul is not touched by matter, although it appears to be. Just like a person in a dream is not touched by the dream, on the physical level, generally. That's a loose analogy. Because when you wake up, you realize, you might have been chased by a tiger in a dream. When you wake up, there's no tiger. It's just an illusion. So this material world is also like that. We're dreaming we're women, we're dreaming we're men. We're dreaming we have so many things. We're dreaming we're old, we're young. And none of these things apply to the soul.
Mhm. I'm still thinking about how we came into the material world, and because coming here isn't a material desire, or how should I understand that part?
That's mentioned in the second canto, the desire for supremacy, the desire for independence. The soul is by nature independent, but its independence becomes realized when it's connected with the Supreme Lord. But the false independence is the consciousness that the soul develops, wanting to be separate from the Supreme and be independent. And then from there, one falls into the material world to try to fulfill that desire.
Mm-hmm.
Personal endeavors for independence and prosperity based on the soul's position.
Mm-hmm.
I just read that just a few days ago in the second canto, in one of the purposes. Yeah, even in this material world, we still use that sense of independence. It's like we might join a spiritual movement, and still we want to be independent and do things our own way.
Mm-hmm.
Even follow the instructions of the spiritual movement. That desire for independence is so strong that it takes one in so many areas of activity to fulfill that desire to do things the way I want to do, because I think I know better what is best for me. Or just to exercise one's independence.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a false, which is sin. Nobody's independent. So as soon as you try to become independent of Krishna, you become placed under the influence of the external energy. So the independence is not real, because now you're under another energy, which is the what is called the Bahiranga Shakti, or the external energy of the Lord. Just like a person knows that if I steal, if I commit a crime, I'll go to jail. But still, I want to do it. I want to exercise my independence, not to follow the laws of the state. All right, so then I get caught, get punished, and then that independence now becomes facilitated by the jail. So now the jail is the same thing, it is created by the state to punish those who want to be independent of the laws of the state. Similarly, the external energy of the material energy, the external energy, is created by Krishna to capture and control the living entity who wants to be independent of Krishna. The same energy is created by Krishna to restrict that soul from being independent. And because there's no question of independence. We're either under the spiritual energy or the material energy, either one. To be under the spiritual energy means to be independent. To be under the spiritual material energy means to be dependent on the external energy. Because in the spiritual energy, we can exercise our ways to serve Krishna in different ways. That's our independence.
Oh, thank you. It's really a lot to digest. It's just I think I have to reevaluate my concept of material and spiritual, because I always thought that whatever is connected to Krishna is spiritual, and whatever is indirectly connected to him and not connected to him is material. But as I understand, this desire for independence, or this so-called independence, probably because we are not in the material world originally, but still we have this desire. I'm not sure if this is material or not.
It is, it's material, yeah. The thing is, you can't be independent. Krishna says, Yegatam mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajami aham mama vartmanu vartante manusya partha sarvasyaham. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Prita. So everyone, Krishna lays down the path for re-entering into the spiritual process, and that is bhakti yoga. But those who don't follow that and they want to stay within the material world and try to, that's also Krishna's path. But it's a different type of path which leads to bondage and control by that same energy that they try to enjoy. No one can be independent of God because God's energy is working completely in all aspects of life. One is the elevating energy and the other one is the punishing energy. Material energy punishes those who want to be independent of the Lord. That's why no one in the material world is happy, because they're acting against the laws of God, which is the laws by which one develops their relationship with God, which is the foundation for returning back to the spiritual world. The material world is designed to bring you back to the spiritual world if you follow the process.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj, for that wonderful answer. And thank you, Mataji, Radha Vinodini Mataji, for your question. I think Swadev devotee is waiting for quite some time, raising his hand. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Please accept my humble obeisances, dear Guru Maharaj. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, you mentioned that Srila Prabhupada said, of all my instructions, chanting 16 rounds every day is the most important instruction. So I was asked this question once when I was giving class, that we have only taken the vow of chanting 16 rounds every day and following the 4 regulative principles at the time of initiation. So what are your comments on attendance of the morning program? We have not taken vow that we will come for Mangalarti, Darshanati, Guru Puja, etc. But Srila Prabhupada said everyone should rise early, everyone should attend Mangalarti, come for morning and evening class, and so on. But we have not taken that vow at the time of initiation. So what are your comments like this? So Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, for those who are living in the temple, that is mandatory. Those who live outside, they may not be able to do that, but they should have some morning program at their home.
Yeah.
Comparable to fulfilling that same desire, that's all. Because these morning programs purify our consciousness, focus our attention on devotion and the Supreme Lord. In the early morning hours, which are the time that's ideal for spiritual practice. So yeah. But what Prabhupada is saying, as far as everyone should attend Mangalar, he means everyone living in the temples. If you live outside and you can go to Mangalarti, that's glorious. But if you can't, you should have some means for performing some spiritual activities in your own home every day.
Yes. Thank you, Mataji, for the wonderful question. Yes, Maharajji. Well said. Yeah, morning sadhana is very important. Early morning sadhana, which is during Brahma Muhurta, is considered to be the most, valuable time. And it's my experience doing morning sadhana, waking up at 4 o'clock, has been a key to progress in this mission. That's my experience, because we start our day with a good note, we begin the day in Brahma Muhurat, chanting Harinam, and then listening to Bhagavatam class. That's additional cream that's a jam on the bread, you know. So yeah, I would say morning sadhana is so important to progress in this Krishna Bhakti. Thank you, Mataji, for that wonderful question, and thank you, Maharajji, for the wonderful answer. I don't, Maharajji, do you have some more time? It's 6:30 here. Can I take a?
But we got some
Yeah.
some good questions left. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, Sukakara Prabhuji, I see his raised hand again. Yes, Prabhuji, go ahead, and then I'll read the chat box as well. Sukakara
Can I ask the
Prabhuji?
question? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maharaj, actually, I read one, thank you, Mataji. I read one Prabhupada's lecture today, and he has clearly told that we are all stuck in the material world mainly because of sex desires. And that was a half-an-hour lecture, and he has told that even people who look at the woman lascivious way, even once, they will be there for 1,000 days in the Yamalok and be beaten by so many things. And Bhakti Vikas Maharaj told once in the lecture that this TV is an idiot box. You should throw that from the house. You should not use the TV at all. And he has told that especially when you go in the plane and all, they show some films and all, and you watch. And you know, the desire suddenly goes and look at some woman, and that will use so many days of hellish planet. So I think what the Muslims are doing to cover the face, I feel that is more protective for men and women both. I want your comment.
Yeah, Prabhupada said because you can't avoid seeing the opposite sex, but if you look at that with the desire to enjoy, then that is, and that will take your consciousness down. Therefore, there is a restriction that one can fulfill that desire through married life. And that's a sense of concessionary that lasts for so many years, and then one moves away for that in the later part of life. But in the principle of sex desire also has its subtle forms in profit, adoration, and distinction. So these things, even though one may not be engaged in gross sexual activities, if they're looking for personal profit, some distinction, some glorification in their execution of devotional service, then that is another form of sex life on a subtle level, profit, adoration. And if you don't cut the root at the subtle level, it'll go back to the gross level again, because the subtle level is the foundation by which all of these things spring from. So it's like when you have if you're cutting grass or you're pulling out weeds, if you just cut the weeds at the level of the ground, the root of the weed stays in the ground and will grow back up again. But if you pull it out from the root, then it's gone. Same way that these subtle aspects of material enjoyment, profit, adoration, distinction, as mentioned, are also forms of subtle sex desire. And if they're not uprooted, they will also, again, manifest in the form of the gross. So one has to be very diligent to keep the mind focused on Krishna. That's the whole process. Keep the mind focused. You have a choice where you want to put your mind. So don't be controlled by the mind. You control the mind. Bring the mind to the things that are spiritual, that elevate your consciousness. You have that choice every moment. When the thoughts enter into the mind, if they're not spiritual, push them out and then bring in spiritual thoughts. And chant the holy names of the Lord. Think of the deity form of the Lord. And then all of these desires for material enjoyment will gradually become less and less. And as we purify our consciousness by bringing our consciousness to Krishna more and more, then at one point they're gone. And the mind is becoming somewhat purified. It's purified and reflects Krishna at every moment. And so that is the process, you know. You can't allow these subtle forms to maintain there, even though one is free from the gross forms.
So you mean say the puja man pratishtha also is a dangerous thing which will drag you to the gross level. The puja man pratishtha, that adoration or glorification.
Pratishtha, puja, these are all forms of subtle desires.
Okay, thank you. Thank
you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj, for that wonderful answer. I don't
Especially, especially Pratishtha. Pratishtha is the foundation by which is the last straw of the material energy. That one is performing devotional service now wants to be known as a great devotee of the Lord, or one even thinks I'm an incarnation of the Lord. Because devotional service is so powerful that one is tapping into the essence of that power. One becomes very powerful by devotional service. And if that power is not understood through the process of humble bhakti, one doesn't practice humility, then that power will make one think that, hey, I want some worship. I'm a great devotee. I'm advanced. I'm better than others. I should get some facilities. These are all indications of that. Even though one is advanced in devotional service, they haven't curtailed the understanding of their position, which is to become completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord at every moment. And know that whatever they can do is simply the mercy of the Lord. That's all. If we think we can do something in of the mercy of the Lord, we may be able to do something for a little while, but ultimately that will catch up with us. So ultimately, the devotee doesn't take credit for whatever they do. They give credit to the Lord. They give credit to their spiritual master.
Guru Maharaj.
A real devotee is not interested. Yeah, let me finish, will you please?
Yeah.
A real devotee is not. The real devotee is not looking for anything but to serve the Lord and to please the Lord, to serve the devotees, to please the devotees. That is what a devotee. That what makes up devotional service. A devotee doesn't perform devotional service for some material gain. Rupa Goswami speaks about that. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati talks about the end result of such devotion is a desire for pratishtha, which is to become known as a great devotee. And then one starts to speculate and create their own process of devotional service within devotional service. One may even break away from the society of devotee and try to start their own movement, thinking they have understood even more. These are all symptoms of this pratishtha, which is a subtle form of sex desire. So, if you understand these principles, then you can recognize when the mind starts facilitating these desires. Oh yes, I'm advanced. I'm better than others. People are offering me obeisances. People are chanting my glories. Obviously, I'm advanced. But this is called Taranga. What is that? Tarangini. Tarangini is the word. That means taking the accolades of devotional service and seeing them as the indications of one's spiritual advancement. Because I have position, Ranga Tarangini it's called. Bhakti Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti talks about that in Madhurya Kandambini. Ranga Tarangini means that, all right, I got followers, I'm getting wealth, I get position, wherever I go, I get flower garlands, Hey, I'm advanced. So these are accolades that come by way of Krishna's mercy upon the devotee, but they're not indications of one's spiritual advancement. They might be slight indications, but what the real indication is, how much they're developing their love for Krishna and how much they're detached from everything in this material world. That is the indication of advancement.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. That's so clear.
How much they're eager to associate and serve devotees, how much they're eager to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, how much they're eager to hear the classes and to read the books. These are indications of one's advancement. Not the external forms that come in the form of the benefits that devotional service brings on the material level. That's a very subtle, and many senior devotees have fallen prey to that. And I use the word many because it's the indication. Yeah, but now we have all of these scriptural statements to help us understand what is real bhakti and what it looks like bhakti, but is contaminated with something temporary or something material, some pseudo forms of bhakti. Just like it says, when you plant a seed in the ground, then the watering process is there. And by the watering process, the seed, along with the cultivation of the ground and giving it proper care, the seed starts to grow into a plant. But also, when you're watering the ground, you're also watering the weeds that are around the plant, and they also can grow. So if one is not aware of those weeds, it can choke out the real plant, just like a creeper chokes out the plant of something that it's in its area. You see how creepers wrap around themselves around a tree, and they can even suck out the life of the tree. And that's the power of a creeper. So these weeds are like the material desires. They spring up from bhakti. They come by way of bhakti. They're not bhakti. They're just simply growing with the devotional service of the jiva. Both of them are growing at the same time. But one has to be aware of that and say, oh, yes, I'm feeling proud. I'm looking for adoration. When I don't get it, I feel unhappy, like that. Or, these are all subtle forms of contamination. And if they're not removed initially, then eventually they'll grow to such a way that one will fall down from devotional service. And one will even think, I know more than the spiritual master. The spiritual master knows a lot, but he hasn't given me everything. I've understood other things. Yeah. The spiritual master has made a mistake. He had written the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 5th canto. He's made so many mistakes about the cosmological arrangements of the universe. Therefore, we know, because we have studied what the scientists have said and we have understood, and it's, so they take issue with Srila Prabhupada's 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. They take his statements out of context and give it a different definition, and then criticize that different definition, which is not really the meaning of the spiritual master. Yeah, so this goes on. This goes on.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj, for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Manfred. So much you have explained. Thanks a lot, Maharaj.
I don't have hands raised anymore, but I do have a few questions in the chat box, Maharaj. Would you like to? I'll just read them quickly. So this is Hemi Mataji says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dhanavat Pranam. Beautiful class, thank you. I just wanted to know if there is specific recommendation in terms of how much time we should devote in personal reading of Srila Prabhupada's book, and how much time to be devoted in hearing lectures over and above hearing the morning Bhagavatam class daily.
Well, Srila Prabhupada's made some statements regarding the times that we should dedicate to these things, but ultimately the principle is as much time as you can. But if you're looking for a standard by which you can organize your day-to-day schedule, he did say we'll read his books 1 to 2 hours every day. Minimum 1 to 2 hours every day for reading. He said that. It depends on what your life is, how much you can but minimum at least an hour or more every day. And Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. Like that. He also said different statements. Sometimes he said 2 hours. One time he said 5 hours. So Prabhupada will use different statements, and one can see. In our temples, he wanted our temples to be places of education where people come in and hear the classes all day. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he writes that there should be glorification of the Lord throughout the whole day, which means hearing the glories of the Lord through discussion, through classes, seminars, and various types of educational programs. And at evening, he said 3 hours of kirtan every night in every one of our temples.
Mm-hmm.
So that Prabhupada, we don't follow Prabhupada because we think it's too impractical, too difficult. So we adjust. When you start adjusting, what happens is it becomes a process of adjustment. Then you adjust again, and pretty soon the essence is lost.
Correct. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And another question I see, Hare Krishna Maharaj Ji, senior devotees having veg cook and offer to Lord and have as prasad. How you will teach on this situation? Cook is veg but doesn't chant at all, doesn't know anything about Krishna consciousness. Is this practice accepted?
I think we discussed that.
Exactly, yeah.
Anyone who's cooking for the deity,
yeah,
if they're living at home, they should chant at least 4 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
If they're in the temple, then they have to follow the temple protocol, which means they should be second initiated.
Yeah. Yeah, you answered that already, Maharaji. Yeah, thank you so much. I don't see any more raised hand. I see another. I don't see any other questions here. So I think
Mataji, there is one more raised hand.
Oh, let me see. Maybe. Oh, there you go. Okay, Swati. Mataji, yeah, go ahead, please. You can go ahead.
Thank you so much for your kindness. Guru Maharaj, I have a question regarding this pratishtha. When we are planning activities, when we are planning services, when we are thinking we want to do like this, we want to expand Srila Prabhupada's mission, or so on and so on, there may be definitely that desire to please Prabhupada, to please the spiritual master. But unconsciously, how do we know that the desire for pratishtha is also not lurking in the background? And if that is the case, how can we eliminate that and make our desires pure?
Yeah, these things are subtle, and sometimes they're so subtle only other people can see it, and you can't even see it in yourself. But therefore, one should try to offer it with a desire to please. That's all. Put your own desires in the background and put the desire to please Krishna in the foreground. That's all.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you,
That should be
Mataji.
applied in all of the activities we perform.
Okay, so I don't see any more raised hand. Thank you very much, Maharaji, for that answer. And we could end this call since there is no more raised hand. Thank you so much, Maharaji, for coming on the call. And thank you so much. We are so fortunate to have your association. We look forward to your association again in the future. And I would like to end this call. And let's.
If you keep praising me, I won't be here for very long.
He's praising you is like praising the Lord. You all are our spiritual masters, and we are so grateful to have your association, Maharaj. So let us praise you. Okay, so let's pay our obeisance to Maharaj. Vancha kalpataru
पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो कोटि
Jai.
वैष्णववृंद की जय।
Jai.
श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय।
Jai.
प्रभुपाद की जय।
हरि बोल प्रभु
Jai.
जी,
महाराज की
बोल
जय।
महाराज
थैंक यू महाराज।
Jai.